Another important aspect that you're going to find yourself needing to deal with when creating any sort of mobile application is the concept of navigation. So in many instances, you're not going to get very far with a single screen, although many applications do. At some point, you're probably going to want to go to another UI page or another part of your application where maybe you can change some settings, or maybe it's just another feature to your application. But either way, you're going to want to be able to get to another page or another screen. And in Windows Phone applications, that's no different. So there's a very simple way of doing it, albeit it's a little bit different if you've ever done any sort of maybe iOS or Android development. It's going to be a little bit different. So let's go ahead and set this up a little bit. So as you can see here, I've created another very simple application using the standard templates. I have a main page XAML, which you see here, and I have a second page XAML, as you see here. So I'll go ahead and close these out so we have a little bit more room. So this time I'm going to change it up a little bit, and I'm going to use the toolbox to create some UI elements here. So let's start with the main page. So let's say at some point I'm on my main page and I'm going to want to navigate to that second page. So just that we can see things are a little bit different, we're going to change this page title to main page, just so we can see where we're coming from. And then on the second page, we want to change this to second page. All right, so now that we have those squared away, we can start to build this out a little bit. So let's open up our toolbox. And from within here, you can really choose any sort of UI element that can handle some sort of click or some sort of event, or however you want to do that. So we'll just start by maybe dragging a button out here. So it's a very simple button, nothing too crazy on here. And I'll just say, go to second page, or something like that. So now we have our button here that's going to ultimately take us to our second page, and then we'll come over here to second page, and we can do basically the same thing, or we could come maybe and use a hyperlink button here if we wanted to. Drag this out here, and then we will go ahead and change this to go to main page, just like that. So now we have two screens, two XAML pages that each have a button on it, or some mechanism to get back to the other page, or to some other page within our application. So now the way that we're going to handle this is, once again, we'll use the code behind file. You can get a little bit more fancy and do some MVVM stuff and maybe use some other MVVM frameworks to assist in this. But once again, to get the basic concept, you can use any sort of pattern if you'd like to be able to do this, but this is just a very quick and simple example. So now I'm in my main page here. I'm going to double click on this go to second page button, which is going to create an event handler in my code behind file. Now, the difference if you are following along with, say, Windows Phone 8 as opposed to 8.1 is this concept of navigation has changed a little bit. So if you're used to using Windows Phone 8, you might be used to doing something like this, using the navigation service and using a method on there to actually be able to go to basically another URL within your application. So to say I want to navigate to second page or something along those lines. Well, now in 8.1, they've kind of changed it to mirror a little bit some concepts of Windows 8 and Windows RT to be able to bring these things together a little bit and make them a little bit more functional. Once again, it's just one of those things you're going to have to get used to as you go along and advance to the latest versions of Windows Phone. In this case, we're going to use something called the frame. And our frame property is actually going to get the controlling frame for the page content. So the frame you can think of as really the overseer of this page, and allows you to get access to basically a level above this page to tap into some features and functionality that live at the application level. And in this case, we're actually going to want to navigate to a certain page. Now, in previous versions in Windows Phone 8, you were to give basically a URI. You actually wanted to create this URL that was going to point to where you were going. But now in this method, we're actually going to just specify a type. So we'll say a type of second page. And this is going to handle the actual transition from this page to the next. So I'll go ahead and save that. We'll come back over to our second page and we'll double click our go to main page here, and that will create a click event handler here. And we'll do the same thing here. We'll say frame.navigate and we want to go to type of main page, just like that. So we'll go ahead and save that. And we'll go ahead and hit F5 to run this, and it will open up here in our emulator. So now we can see we're on our main page. We have our go to second page button. So if I were to click on that, it's going to take me to my second page, and now I have my go to main page button. I can click that and it will take me to my main page. Now you can basically do the same type of stuff with your back button, the hardware back button, but in this case I wanted to show you how you can navigate to different sections or different pages within your application. So that's pretty nice, but what if I needed to actually send information or send some sort of data over to another page? How would I handle something like that? Well, it's quite simple actually. So let's go into our second page XAML file here, and then we'll go ahead and just grab a text box and we'll drag this out here like this. So we'll see in here that we can have a little bit of text. Go into our properties and we'll give this a name. We'll call this text parameter, just so we can get access to it from within our code. And now I'm going to go over to my main page where I'm actually going to send data. So I'm going to have my frame.navigate method here, so I can specify where I'm going, and then I also have the option here to send over some object parameters. So in my case, I'm really just going to send over a string or some data that I want to visualize on that second screen, but you could definitely send objects across or serialize some data or something along those lines to kind of pass data in between these views or these screens. So I'll just pass a string and I'll say hello there from main page, like that. So we'll go ahead and save that. So now when I'm actually navigating to second page, I'm going to send this data across to that particular page. So we'll save that. Now if I come back over to my second page, you'll notice that there's a method in here called onNavigated_to. And if you look into the navigation event args that come in on my onNavigated_to method, you're going to see in here that I have a parameter. Now this parameter is the same object that was passed along from the source page to this destination. So in our case, remember, it was just a very simple string that we're passing along. So what I can do now is I can grab a reference to my text parameter, which is my text box on my screen, and I can set its text equal to the data that was actually passed across. So I'll say that's going to be equal to my parameter.toString. So we'll go ahead and save that guy now. So if I were to run this again, say F5, I come up to my main page here. Now when I click this page, I'm going to hit that frame.navigate method, and I'm going to pass across a string. So we'll say go to second page. And as you can see here in my text box, I now see hello there from main page. So it's quite simple to be able to send data back and forth between pages, between screens, using our frame.navigate method. Now, once again, it does bear in mind to remember that this navigational structure using the frames has changed a little bit since Windows Phone 8, where you used to have to use the navigation service. So just kind of keep that in mind if you have that as a base of knowledge, that going forward it's going to be just a little bit different. So those are the basic concepts that you're going to need to understand as far as navigation within your Windows Phone 8.1 application.